Ethan Walker learned the sound of finality at 14 years old. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a crash. It was the quiet, metallic click of a deadbolt sliding into place. He stood on the porch of his aunt and uncle's house, staring at the peeling white paint of the door. Inside, the television was still mumbling. He could smell the faint aroma of dinner, meatloaf and onions lingering in the air. But that warmth, that smell, that light, it didn't belong to him anymore. "You're old enough to figure it out," his uncle had said. It was a sentence that ended his childhood in 5 seconds flat. Ethan turned around. The October wind didn't care that he was just a kid. It cut right through his thin hoodie, biting at his collarbone. He adjusted the strap of his backpack, which contained 2 t-shirts, a toothbrush, a photo of his late parents, and exactly $5.25. He walked. He didn't know where, he just knew he couldn't stay still, or the reality of it would crush him. Sometimes life forces us to walk a road we never asked for. It's in these darkest moments that we find out who we really are. Welcome to Kindness Valley, where we share stories of resilience that touch the heart. Before we see where Ethan's journey takes him, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment below, and hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share more powerful stories like this one. Now, let's see what happens when a boy with nothing decides to build everything. The first night was a blur of shivering behind the feed store, using his backpack as a pillow. When the sun rose, it brought light but no heat. Ethan was stiff, hungry, and terrified. But he wasn't broken, not yet. He saw the paper taped to the community bulletin board. It was fluttering in the wind, half torn. County tax auction, unclaimed property. Most people walked right past it, but Ethan stopped. His eyes scanned the list of tractors and farm equipment he couldn't afford until he reached the bottom. Item 402, abandoned structure. Outskirts of town. Starting bid, $5, $5. Ethan reached into his pocket. He squeezed the crumpled bills in his fist. It was crazy. It was stupid. That house, if you could even call it that, was known in town as the Wreck. It was a place where teenagers went to throw rocks and where memories went to rot. But a wreck was better than a sidewalk. The auction was held in a dusty room that smelled of stale coffee and sawdust. When item 402 came up, the room went silent. The auctioneer looked bored. "Do I have $5? Ethan raised his hand. It shook just a little. A few men in the back chuckled. It wasn't mean-spirited laughter, just the sound of adults watching a child try to lift something too heavy for him. "Sold," the auctioneer said, banging the gavel. To the boy in the hoodie. Ethan signed his name with a trembling hand. He handed over his $5. He had a quarter left to his name. But as he walked out holding the deed, the air felt different. He was homeless, yes, but he owned a home, and that paradox gave him the strength to walk the 4 miles out of town. From a distance, the house looked like a bruised knee, swollen and purple against the brown prairie. Up close, it was worse. The front porch was gone, just a pile of splintered wood. The roof sagged in the middle like a broken spine. The windows weren't windows anymore. They were jagged, gaping mouths filled with darkness. Ethan pushed the door open. It scraped against the floorboards, screaming in protest. The smell hit him instantly, damp rot, mouse droppings, and decades of abandonment. Dead leaves had drifted into the corners. Sunlight stabbed through holes in the roof, illuminating floating dust motes. It was a disaster. It was dangerous. Ethan dropped his backpack in the center of the room and sat on a dusty crate. He put his head in his hands. "What have I done?" he whispered. The wind whistled through the gaps in the walls. It felt like the house was mocking him. "You think you can fix me? You're just a kid." But as night fell and the temperature dropped towards freezing, Ethan realized he had a choice. He could leave and freeze on the road, or he could stay and fight. He stood up. He grabbed a loose board and wedged the door shut. He curled up in the corner, the only dry spot he could find. "This is mine," he said into the darkness. "I'm not leaving." The next month was a brutal lesson in survival. Ethan didn't have tools. He didn't have materials. He used a flat rock as a hammer. He scavenged nails from the rotten porch to fix the walls. He filled cracks with mud and straw, trying to keep the wind out. He was starving, eating scraps he earned from sweeping floors behind the diner in town. People started to notice. The boy at the dead house. One afternoon, seeking warmth, Ethan wandered into the local hardware store. He wasn't going to buy anything. He just wanted to feel the heat for 5 minutes. The owner, a man named Ray Collins with hands like leather and eyes that didn't miss a thing, watched him. "You're the one who bought the wreck," Ray said. It wasn't a question. Ethan stiffened, ready to be kicked out. "Yes, sir. Roof gonna hold." "I don't know," Ethan admitted. Ray grunted. He reached under the counter and pulled out a box of mismatched nails and a roll of heavy-duty plastic sheeting. He slid it across the counter. "Inventory cleanout," Ray lied. "I was gonna throw it away. You take it." Ethan looked at the box, then at Ray. His throat felt tight. "I can't pay you." "Did I ask for payment?" Ray went back to reading his paper. "If you survive the winter, come sweep my shop in the spring. Then we're even." That plastic sheeting saved Ethan's life. He wrapped the house in it. He nailed it down with Ray's nails. It wasn't pretty, it looked like a giant garbage bag, but it stopped the wind. Every day was a battle. Wake up freezing, work until his fingers bled, eat whatever he could find, sleep, repeat. There were nights he cried, nights where the loneliness was heavier than the timber beams. He missed his mom. He missed hearing someone say his name with love, but the house was changing, slowly. The roof stopped leaking, the walls grew thicker. The house stopped feeling like a corpse and started feeling like a fortress. Then came Christmas Eve. It wasn't a silent night, it was violent. A blizzard roared across the plains, burying the world in white. The wind shrieked like a banshee, hammering against Ethan's patchwork walls. Inside, Ethan huddled over a small fire he'd built in a stone ring on the dirt floor. He was wearing every piece of clothing he owned. The house groaned under the weight of the snow, the wood creaking in protest. "Hold on," Ethan whispered to the walls. "Just hold on." Suddenly, through the cracks in his boarded-up window, he saw a light, a flicker, then darkness, then a flicker again. Ethan stood up. Who would be out here? He shoved the door open against the wind. The cold slapped him, stealing his breath. Through the swirling white chaos, he saw a car, nose down in a ditch 50 yards away. Ethan didn't think, he ran. He found a man and a woman stumbling through the drifts, clutching 2 small children. They were blue-lipped, their eyes wide with panic. "Help!" the man screamed, his voice thin in the wind. "We're freezing." "Come on," Ethan yelled back. He grabbed the woman's arm, helping her slog through the knee-deep snow. He guided them toward the only thing standing for miles, his wreck, his home. They tumbled inside, shaking uncontrollably. Ethan slammed the door and threw his last precious logs onto the fire. "Get close," he commanded, his voice sounding older than 14. "Wrap them in this." He gave them his blankets. He gave them the warmth he had hoarded for himself. The family huddled together, the parents rubbing life back into their children's hands. The father looked around the room at the plastic sheets, the mud-packed walls, the dirt floor. "You live here?" the man asked, teeth chattering. "Alone," Ethan nodded, feeding the fire. "You saved us," the mother whispered, pulling her daughter tight. "If this house wasn't here, we would have died in that car." That night, as the storm raged outside, the house didn't feel broken. It felt strong. It held the heat. It protected the innocent. Ethan sat in the corner, watching the family sleep, and for the first time since his parents died, he didn't feel like a castaway. He felt like a captain. When the snow melted, the secret was out. The family told everyone in town about the boy and his lighthouse in the storm. The narrative changed overnight. Ethan wasn't the crazy kid anymore. He was the kid who didn't quit. Ray Collins drove out the next week. He didn't bring scraps this time. He brought a truckload of lumber and a toolbox. "Time to do this right," Ray said, stepping out of the truck. "I still can't pay you," Ethan said. Ray smiled, a rare, genuine thing. "Town council voted. They need a handyman for the parks. I put your name in. You start Monday. Consider this in advance." Spring turned into summer and the $5 house began to breathe. Ethan stripped the rot. He laid a real floor, board by smooth board. He learned to measure, to cut, to sand. He discovered that he had a gift. He understood how things fit together. He put in windows, real glass that caught the sunset. He painted the exterior a warm, butter yellow, the color of morning light. He built a porch, wider and stronger than the one that had been there before. He wasn't just fixing a house. He was fixing himself. Every nail he drove was a promise that he would never be helpless again. Years went by. Ethan grew up. His shoulders broadened. His hands became rough with calluses but gentle with wood. He never left. If you drive past that road today, you won't see a wreck. You'll see a beautiful cottage with a wraparound porch and a chimney that puffs white smoke into the blue sky. It's the kind of house that makes you feel safe just looking at it. People in town call it the sanctuary. Ethan Walker is a grown man now. He runs the most successful construction business in the county. He has a wife and kids of his own who run through those rooms. But every year, on the anniversary of the day he bought the deed, he walks to the edge of his property. He holds a crumpled, yellowing piece of paper, the receipt for $5. He keeps the porch light on, every single night. He says it's for anyone who might be lost in the dark, cold world, a signal that says, "Don't give up. There is shelter here." Ethan's story isn't just about a house. It's about the architecture of the human spirit. It asks us a difficult question. When the world shuts the door on you, when the wind is cold and you have nothing left but pocket change and a heartbeat, what will you build? Will you let the rot take over? Or will you pick up a hammer? Most people see a ruin. Ethan saw a home, and that vision made all the difference. Is there a $5 house in your own life? Something broken, forgotten, or dismissed that is just waiting for your touch to become something beautiful. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in the power of second chances, please join our community. Subscribe to Kindness Valley right now. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that reminds us of the good in the world. Remember, no matter how cold the winter gets, spring is always coming. You just have to build a place to wait for it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.